Alright y'all, so this here is going to be a quick install video of the Typhoon intake systems K&N cold air intake, part number 69-4525TS. It's pretty simple. The tools needed are going to be a ratchet, extension, probably should be longer, we'll find out. That's another ratchet, a T20, a 15, a 10 millimeter, and in that you need both a socket and a wrench. And there's a suggested flathead screwdriver. I personally think I'm going to end up using an 8 millimeter. Alright y'all, so go ahead and disconnect your battery. I personally always disconnect the negative terminal, just so that way if I arc between the frame, it's not going to give me a problem. Now that your battery disconnected, go ahead and undo your mass airflow sensor, MAF sensor. Personally, the first step I'm going to do is wrap this insulator around this box, because that's the part that makes this different from all other air intakes. It kind of snaps on pretty easily. I'm going to start down at this corner, bottom corner, and just walk it around with my hands. Okay, so one note that I want to make is when doing this, you may be tempted to think, oh man, it's too long, but chances are you just got to loosen up a little bit and try again and try again. Don't just go cutting it, because after my third attempt, I did finally get it to line up. Okay, now that that is undone, I'm going to go ahead and take my 8 millimeter. Be very careful with this. This is your mass airflow sensor. If you clunk it, you may end up replacing it, and it is a very expensive piece. By very expensive, I mean you're only talking maybe $80 to $150 tops, but regardless, that's a lot of money, and it's definitely not something you want to find out about while sitting on the side of the road. If you're lucky, your car will still start afterwards. So my car in particular does not have an air injection pump, so I don't have to worry about that step. Some of y'all may have to disconnect your air injection pump. Me personally, I've just got to undo the 3, and this is where the gentle comes in. Hopefully that was gentle enough. You got 3 spots, 1, 2, 3 spots, and then out your old air box. Now the instructions for the K&N do instruct you to take off this here air boot, so that there is another 8 millimeter. If yours is like mine, just go ahead and get that undone. Okay, now we got this rusty crusty piece of crap out of here. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and take this silicone hose SAE J30 R7 and place it face down, the small side, on the throttle body with this included hose clamp, and tighten that down. It's an 8 millimeter. We're going to go ahead and use this assembly here. 2 bolts, 4 washers, 2 lock nuts, as demonstrated here. Now we're going to use the provided super glue to glue this venturi into this intake pipe. Press the button on the super glue, and when you're done, you want this to be lined up like this, so the mass airflow sensor has room. It does instruct that you may need to tap it into place, but you're simply going to glue around this edge, just like so. For me personally, I ended up getting a little bit of a lip over, but I'm optimistic that it's still going to fit as it should. We're going to go ahead and remove this mass airflow sensor. Be very careful with them. It doesn't take much to break an old mass airflow sensor. It doesn't take much to break a new mass airflow sensor. So anyway, 2 T20s, that should come out. When installing it, make sure you install it the correct orientation. The bolts will only fit one way. These old screws are plastic screws, you can tell by the coarse threads. K&N has provided 2 new 2.5 millimeter bolts for their intake tube. Which brings me to another point. Don't forget you need a 2.5 millimeter Allen key for this. Out comes the old sensor, and you're just going to pop it in here. If it doesn't really go, you can always, just like hot spit on that thing. And so with a little bit of lube and a little bit of elbow grease, we have now got the mass airflow sensor installed. If for some reason when you're done with this install you have engine codes, your engine's stuttering, chances are you were too rough with the mass airflow sensor. Post your codes below and we will diagnose them. Okay, our next step is going to be go ahead and remove this 15mm. It goes to the engine mount. Seems a little absurd to me, a little over the top, but it's what's requested, so do it up. Alright, now go ahead and install this intake tube into the intake boot down there. Again, keep in mind your mass airflow sensor is right there, and if you jiggle that, you're gonna cost yourself money. So put your hose clamp on and then your intake tube. Not tighten it down all the way at this time because you will need to make minor adjustments before doing that. So at this time we're going to take our shield and we're going to drop this bolt through it, okay? Just like so. Okay, this is going to sound crazy, but I actually undid these two bolts and popped this into place and then redid these two bolts just to make it easier. So yeah, this is your motor mount bolt. Motor mount. And yeah, once you get that through, you're going to go ahead and slip this on, this here fat washer. And slip that on. You're going to reinstall right there with that pretty close to the hole. Quick PSA, no, my short extension was not long enough for this. Next part, we need a bolt, a thick washer, 2 washers, a nut, and this armature. That contraption goes bolt, washer, firewall, thick washer, this armature 010051, flat washer, locking nut. Now on this side here, we're going to go ahead, we're going to go bolt, lock washer, flat washer, 010051. Now I personally am going to tighten this before I worry about tightening this. All of this is 10mm hardware, by the way. Okay, so now that you've gotten this here centered, this intake pipe centered, you can go ahead and tighten down the 10mm here, the 10mm here, as well as the 8mm on your worm clamp. Go ahead and unbox the Holy Grail. Now this one here is strictly for bonus points. If you go ahead and you remove this 10mm bolt down here, right here, don't forget to reinstall it after. And you go ahead and you remove this here plate. I would start on this side unless you plan on replacing this. I personally plan on replacing this very shortly. You can probably manage to squeeze this here intake condenser and all this bull crap out of here. You probably don't need it. It's probably stealing some power. So, bye. And now we are left with a nice big gaping hole. Very nice. I like it. Alright, so now that this is all nice and oiled up, it may actually come pre-oiled, I'm not sure. You could read and tell me. Go ahead and put it on. Put on that 8mm. Reconnect your mass airflow sensor. Reconnect your battery. Probably pick up your tools and your scrap. List that stuff on eBay. And go test her out. Yes, the car is already warmed up, so don't judge me. Sounds novice. Ooh. 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 That was nice.